So John Lautner was a Southern California architect, mid-century modern architect who worked in Los Angeles primarily. He's a really interesting guy. He grew up in Michigan, I believe, and when he was after he graduated college, his mother notified him that Frank Lloyd Wright was accepting applications for Wright's Taliesin Fellowship in Spring Green, Wisconsin. So Lautner applied to the program and he was accepted, and spent quite a bit of time with Wright at the fellowship. Wright was hugely influential on Lautner, and as you kind of follow the trajectory of Lautner's career in Los Angeles, you can see the kind of Wrightian philosophy in his work come out really very clearly in his early work, and as you progress through his career, the style kind of loosens up, and you can start seeing the more formal quality that we now kind of associate with Lautner's work start to express itself over time. But the story goes that Lautner the reason he moved to Los Angeles was to supervise the construction on Frank Lloyd Wright's, I believe it was the Sturgis house. So Lautner's on record saying that when he got to LA, he thought that it was one of the ugliest cities he's ever seen. So he clearly didn't like it here, which was really funny because he would end up staying here for the remainder of his career and becoming one of Los Angeles's most iconic architects. But he would stay in Los Angeles, and I think what the city did have to offer him, although maybe in his eyes it wasn't the most beautiful place, it did have kind of an eclectic, artsy community that was willing to commission him for his work, his unique work. And I think that's maybe one of the factors that kind of pulled him in and held him in Los Angeles. A couple notable buildings by Lautner would be the Sheets Goldstein House, #1, which I had the opportunity to visit a couple of years ago. Beautiful place. It kind of is nestled into a hillside. The house kind of culminates in a triangular ridge, which is created by a concrete coffer roof system, and that ridge kind of points directly out to the city, the LA skyline. It's a really great moment. And then there's kind of a little pool in front. In the coffered ceilings, he uses a really interesting technique where he brings light in through these small holes. I believe they're some kind of bottle or little light tube that they worked up, and you can get these little beams of light coming down onto the deck. It's really a really great moment. So another notable project by Lautner would be the Chemosphere. I believe it's a 5-foot diameter concrete rod that's embedded into the earth, a steeply sloping hillside site. Kind of the concrete rod projects up out of the hill, and then you have this octagonal kind of pod that's hovering on top of this concrete post, and you have some diagonal bracing on there. But I mean, this is one of the houses that was being designed and built during kind of the space age that way, so I think there was this fascination with the new technologies, and Lautner definitely was influenced by that, and it came out in his architecture. Another one of my favorite projects by Lautner would be the Elrod House in Palm Springs. The house was commissioned by Arthur Elrod, who was an interior designer in the area, and although Arthur Elrod was a designer himself, he kind of gave Lautner full design control on the project. After Lautner submitted the first set of drawings to Arthur Elrod, there were minimal changes, and Elrod approved, and they went right into construction. So the house is kind of nestled in the existing landscape. There's a lot of natural desert boulders that are integrated into the house, and the whole thing is kind of covered by a circular concrete canopy. I think it's 60 feet in diameter roughly, but the whole main living space is kind of enclosed or encapsulated by this hovering concrete canopy. So although Lautner did receive a fair amount of criticism throughout his career, it's hard to deny that he didn't have a huge impact on the architecture of Southern California and Los Angeles. His houses are some of the most iconic images of Southern California mid-century modern architecture. So I really think that his influence on the city was a pivotal point in the history of architecture, and I think he deserves quite a bit more credit than he may have gotten at the time. But I think people are slowly starting to see the level of influence that he had on the architectural field.